Hello everybody and welcome to a Jumputi Heroes batch review for the Katekyo Hitman Reborn Feature Festival number 2. This is a little bit late. It's a little bit late, but the banners are still up, so I call that a win. And the reason it's so late is because we've been in the process of, well, I've upgraded my PC now, but we're still working on new software, also trying to fix some old software that wasn't working the way I wanted it to. And we're just trying to refine the whole recording, editing, and so on and so forth process. And it's taken a little bit of time. But once we get there, should be easier to make videos, should be easier to edit, render, upload, so on and so forth. So hopefully, a little bit more content on the way for people in the coming few weeks at least. I've got a few videos planned, some recommendations from Discord and from the stream. So I'll see you when I upload those ones, of course. But today we're talking about the units from the Reborn Feature Festival. Only 8 new characters and a Legend Summon, which isn't really a lot for a feature festival, but I like them. They're my boys. They're my boys. I love Katekyo Hitman Reborn. The sprites look incredible. They look so good. The only downside is there's so few of them. And so many V2s. I don't necessarily have a problem with the V2s being here. Just the fact that half of the event is V2s is a little bit sad. It's a little bit sad. But anyway, we'll start off with the limited. If you were watching on stream, you will have seen me pulling for this boy. Harmony of the Sky, Sawada Tsunayoshi. He's good. He is good. He inflicts damage that ignores damage reduction and boosts his own ultimate attack damage and removes 1 cyclone from himself, which makes him quite suited for PvP. He's got like good status as a hitter, you know, ignoring the damage reduction gets past some of those more annoying damage reduction supports we've been seeing in Tower recently. Then you've got boosted ultimate attack damage for himself, which again, quite PvP focused. It's a selfish skill. Doesn't necessarily lend itself that well to PvE, but you can still use it. And remove 1 cyclone from this unit. Again, quite good for PvP, because there are a few units that will hit you with some heavy cyclones, and he just removes it. He just removes it. He will still see some use in some cyclone stages, like say for example if you're on like Ryzen stage. You don't even need to think about damage reduction on the cyclone. You just remove it. It's just gone. Of course, it only does apply to him, so you'll have to factor that in. But you know what? It's pretty good. The passive is an unconditional attack boost, damage reduction that is actually balanced between PvE and PvP. I find that quite interesting because 11k is like not a ridiculous amount in PvP. And 1300 is not a ridiculous amount in PvE, but they're both still good. They're both still nice to have. So it's sort of balanced in a way. And he has the same sort of end to his passive as Tanjiro. Convert 3 bubbles, including the block bubble, to rainbow. Quite nice. Quite nice. I really like him. I really like him. I don't think he's like, oh, the absolute best, cream of the crop, whatever. He doesn't quite get in the team ahead of, say, Tanjiro, who is my boy. But I am so happy with how they've handled his frontline compared to version 1 limited Suna, or the yellow Suna, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm so happy with how they've handled it comparatively. Just because he can fully be used effectively in PvE. He might not shine in PvE the same way he might in PvP, but again, he's not so PvP focused that it matters too much, and he's not like, oh, the best PvP unit or the best PvE. He's just a nice unit. He's just a nice unit. You don't have to feel bad if you summon him. I think you will definitely see some use out of him, if not for the ultimate attack and passive. The buddy skill. This is a very nice buddy skill. Not the first character to have a buddy skill like this, but I think Toshiro and Yuno have it. Convert a random bubble to a skill bubble and boost the blast radius by 1. Convert a total of 4 bubbles to red. For 1 turn, guard 23% of all damage received from red team members. It's nice. Very, very useful support. Very, very useful skill set. I've got to say, he like I said, not the absolute best, not peak PvP or PvE. He's just nice. I just like it. Okay, I just do. This isn't like last year where I pulled Suna just because it was Suna. This year I got to pull him because he was Suna and because he is a good unit. Because his sprite is so good. His win animation is like him celebrating with Natsu. Oh my god. Oh my. Well, actually, I say Natsu. It's nuts, isn't it? The official translation I think is nuts. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Moving on. Hayato Gokudera, version 2 Gokudera. Very happy we have a gacha Gokudera now. And well, we've struck gold because he's really good. He is really good. Ignores damage reduction, as we said before. Pretty damn handy. And puts a bomb on all enemies. It will detonate after 1 turn for 275% damage. That's good bomb damage. And it's on all enemies, which, yeah, okay, in PvP that's not really going to matter that it's on all enemies. But in PvE, there are stages with multiple enemies and that could come in handy. He has Cyclone damage reduction to a very high degree. 6550. Not too shabby. And he boosts his own attack by 25%. I'm thinking this guy is pretty damn good for Horizon if you haven't already beaten that stage. So if you were looking for a very good unit to throw in your team there, I'm saying he could be one of them. He could be one of them. His buddy skill as well. Convert a random bubble to a skill bubble. Convert a green and yellow to red. And for 2 turns, boost the attack of red team members by 40%. Now, I would not say that is like a top tier support. But the fact that he has a very good front line. And they've thrown in an actually genuinely decent buddy skill. I'm happy. I'm happy, you know? It's not a game changer, his buddy skill, but a nice addition. A nice addition. I don't really have a lot to say other than I think this is probably the best unit of the batch. I mean, yeah, obviously Suna's stronger, but Suna costs way more rubies. He costs way more. So, like, if you were just looking to get like one of these characters because you like Reborn, I don't think Gokudera's banner would be a bad choice. Throw a couple of multis at that. Obviously, being too frivolous with rubies this close to anniversary might not be a good idea. But yo, my boy's shining. Look at him. My boy's shining. One thing I'll touch on while we're here, you might have noticed some updates to the database that have been going on. We've been working on those in the background. Some of them I announced and some of them I just dropped. So you might not have noticed them all. I don't know. But there's been major changes to the UI, especially on mobile. Still not exactly how I want it, but I think way better than it was before. We've started adding in book images for all the characters who don't have them. Because they're not added into the game anymore, but we think it fits quite well in the UI, so fuck it, we'll add it in for now. Getting the high-res images is not always easy, but with Reborn it was easy. With Reborn it was easy, so it's fine. What else have we done? What else have we done? We separated names and titles, so the appearance of them is slightly better. We've added the Japanese versions of characters' names. You might be wondering what the point of that is, but what we kind of thought was, if you've got the Japanese name here, and there's anything on here where, like, you know, you wanted to check what is this unit good for, what stages can you use them on, whatever, you can copy and paste this. You can go over to Game 8 and you can just throw the name in there, and anything that we have not added in the database, they will probably have. You can do that. That is an option. Just in case you needed the Japanese name quickly, there it is. We've added the grade, which lets you know which limit break doors the characters are going to have to use. We've spruced up the stats a little bit. We've added these banners for all the characters' skills, which in free-to-play units you will see includes the luck skills. And we have also added costumes. You can have a look at Damon Spade costume like so, and number 1 to go back to the original. lots of little updates. Lots of little updates. So I hope you guys can make good use of those. We've also got the filter, which I've talked about before. Still in the process of being added to, but it's actually come quite a long way. All the new units get added to the filter straight away when I add them to the database. So they're there. They're there. So if you are looking for what's an example? HP based damages. Let's look for HP based damages. I think there's a Katekyo Hitman Reborn unit that does this. There he is, Kyoya Hibari. So we're working on it. We're working on it. We're slowly adding everything. I am definitely going to work on the appearance of the filters and stuff, because A, it doesn't quite appear properly on mobile, and B, I think this is a little bit confusing for some people. So I'd like to make this a bit more straightforward. We're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that. Anyway, back to the units. Back to the units. We have Yamamoto Takashi version 2. This unit has one very strong upside, which we'll start with, his buddy skill. He's the only freeze weakener in the game. So he's quite useful if you have Toshiro. He's quite useful if you have Avan, or I mean, you could even use with Shirahoshi. Any of the freeze units, he is going to help them do a lot more damage with his buddy skill. He also gives you a 53% attack boost, and it absorbs 2 skill bubbles. So quite good for, I would say, PvP. Quite good for PvP. Quite good for PvE also, the freeze weakening. But probably, I would say the standard gacha ones are always much better for PvP. Like the Katakuri that does this for burn weakening. Probably much better for PvP, but you can still use them in PvE. Quite nice. He's going to be in my team, that's for sure. Until we get the limited one, which I may have to pull for. I don't know. I may have to. The frontline skills, though, let's have a look. Inflicts damage, plus if the enemy has counter attack, inflict additional damage. And for 2 turns, reduce the attack of all enemies by 4%. Now, interestingly, let's scroll down. Where does K come in the alphabet? Interestingly, a lot of players, whether they are new to the game or they have been playing since launch, will have this unit here, Sawada Tsunayoshi version 1. This Yamamoto quite cleverly pairs up with version 1 Suna. He inflicts 4% attack down, which is negligible. It's a negligible amount of attack down, but it does allow Sawada Tsunayoshi to do an additional 90% damage with his ultimate attack. Now, I'm not saying that's a lot, because, you know, he's such an old unit, his damage is a little bit outdated anyway. But that's a really nice thought, I think, by the developers, because they have added in a brand new unit that people would definitely be willing to pull for, and then they've given away Sawada Tsunayoshi during this event for free, and they've made them pair together. I really, really like that. I really rate that from them. I'm pretty sure it's intentional because they're both blue, and it's only a small amount, so it could only really be used for setting up boosted damage. Really, it's not really going to have much effect on characters' actual attack stat. Also, I haven't done Enma's stage, but I'm assuming that means Enma's stage lets you use attack down, because a lot of stages don't let you use attack down anymore. I'm guessing you can do that. If not, that's really fucking useless. And he also does boosted damage counter attack. Again, good for Enma. I'm a little bit put off by that part, if I'm honest. The counter attack for me, it's not that common a debuff, so the boosted damage doesn't really speak to me that much. But of course, if you are on a stage where the enemy has counter, he is a specialist. And I talk about the different kinds of units we have in the game. You have these characters that have a lot of general purpose use, and then you have characters that are very specifically good at the one thing they do. Yamamoto is very specifically good at the one thing he does. If you come up against a red boss that has counter attack, he's going to reduce the amount of counter damage they're doing by 85% for himself, and he's going to do an additional 120% damage to them. Very, very nice. A good unit, but very specific. So unless you've got Toshiro, in which case you're probably going to want him for the buddy skill, he might be a little bit niche to recommend pulling for, unless you're a big fan. And if you are a big fan, don't worry, you can still use him. He is still very usable. Just a little bit niche. And then we have version 2 Hibari. Now, this is a unit that seems to have divided opinion a little bit. HP based damage. He is a tank. There's quite a lot of HP. He's probably going to hit quite hard. He removes 1 ultimate attack damage up from all enemies. That's so redundant. I don't know how much I've talked about this before, but basically they don't use ultimate attack up in PvE. And I think one of the reasons for that is because even if they put the ultimate attack up on one of the enemy characters, most enemy characters will only ultimate attack once, maybe twice a battle. It really depends on which stage it is. But typically speaking, it's not that common a thing that they're going to be firing off ultimate attacks every turn. And a lot of the time when they do fire off their ultimate attack, it's supposed to either be a HP cut or a set amount of damage or something along the lines of it kills you anyway. So there's no reason for them to use an ultimate attack damage buff. So they don't. So saying it removes it from all enemies when it's only really applicable in PvP where there can only be one enemy seems a bit pointless. But you never know. They are releasing new game modes, so could be useful someday. And he gives himself a 6% ultimate attack damage boost, which is kind of small, but you gotta remember he's probably going to be hitting quite hard with that 130% HP based damage. So they want to try and keep it balanced, I guess, a little bit. And his passive is bubble reduction for bind, which is good, and reduced damage received in tower. Again, sort of balanced similarly to Suna's, although I think it has less tower reduction and more PvE reduction. It's okay. I'm really not a big fan of this character at all. I like Hibari, don't get me wrong, I love Hibari, but the unit I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of these skills. I like tanks, I like HP based damage, but don't think it's been used very effectively here. I think it's been made very specifically for PvP, and I'm just not a big fan. I'm just not a big fan. He could definitely see some use as like a PvP hitter, but I wouldn't pull for him just for that. And the fact that he's got the bind reduction here, there's no bind in PvP. Like, there are other debuffs in PvP that if he had a reduction for that, you would say, okay, he's got very good kit for PvP. And I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying, like, say for example, if that was like reduce turns of weakening by 2, or something like that, or you know, reduce burn damage by a certain, then you'd be like, yo, this guy's like PvP god for standard gacha. But the bind reduction's only really good for for PvE. And the ultimate attack's only really specifically good for PvP, so it's a confusing kit to me. I'm not saying it can't work, I'm not saying it can't be used, and you know, he's still going to do some good damage, but you gotta remember, he's going to be compared to his version 1 unit, and this guy's a legend of the scene, let me tell you. People still use him to this day as one of their main green units, because he's given that ultimate attack damage buff to green team members. Can I point out, 14% for all team members. I know it's only for 1 turn. 14% for all team members. Version 2 Hibari, 6% for himself. Don't get me wrong, makes much more sense for him as a character. He's a very selfish character. But, bro, bro, come on. This kit's just not for me. It's just not for me. His buddy skill, convert a total of 3 bubbles to rainbow. For 3 turns, boost the ultimate attack damage of this unit's buddy by 55%. For 3 turns, reduce the number of turns of shock for this unit's buddy by 2. Again, quite PvP oriented. You know, it's boosting the attack of the buddy or the ultimate attack damage of the buddy, and it's a good boost. And the shock reduction is good. And like against shock enemies, like if you're choosing your teams in tower and you see a shock enemy in there, and they have to deal with this, you will win that fight. You will win that fight. You get board control, you get a 55% ultimate attack damage boost for 3 turns, and you can reduce the number of turns of shock for this unit's buddy. I think I've worded that wrong. I think I've worded that wrong, but I don't know why I put for 3 turns there twice. I've worded that wrong. Regardless. Regardless. Reduces the number of turns of shock for this unit's buddy by 2. It's okay. It's okay. It's very good for PvP. I guess I just don't like the PvP focused units. I gotta be real with you. I just don't. I much prefer the units that have broader use. Either broader use or, you know, more leaning towards PvE for me. Next up we have Damon Spade. And as I showed you before, we do have the costumes. By the way, all the costumes are named in-game. They all have a title. Unfortunately, some of the costumes we have don't have a name because we don't have access to them at all. For example, One Piece, LMNO. We have multiple versions of Luffy here, and some of them are named. But these ones, bronze, silver, gold, crown, the only way I could know how they were named was either to go back to the event and double check the flavor text during the event, or own these costumes. And these costumes are only obtainable if you're one of the top 3 guilds during that one specific Unity battle. So needless to say, I don't have it, and I have no way of getting it. And I don't know anybody that has it. So that's fun. We've also got Hunter x Hunter around here somewhere. We also have the costume for the limited Gon, which I have called Absolute Peak of Fury. I think Resolute Determination, I'm quite disappointed with that name. So I wanted to give him a cool name for the costume because we don't have a name for it. Sadly, not only is that unreleased, but that will never come out. That will never come out. Where's Katekyo Hitman Reborn? I gotta go back to what I was doing. There we go. So, moving on to Damon Spade. Yes. So, he is a tank. He does HP-based damage. He's going to be hitting some pretty decent damage. You know, 14k HP for a free-to-play unit. Not too shabby. For 2 turns, boost the ultimate attack damage of green team members by 5%. This guy's a buffer. He's a free-to-play buffer. You know, as we were talking before about Hibari, with that 14% for 1 turn. And then you've got Damon Spade out here. 2 turns... 5% for a free-to-play unit. Not a gacha unit, for a free-to-play unit. So he's going to be hitting pretty good for a free-to-play unit, and he's going to be buffing pretty good for a free-to-play unit. And that's not even all. That's not even all. Because he also has damage reduction for green team members when your HP is below 80%, which, let's be honest, below 80% as far as HP conditions go, not too bad. You'll be below 80% quite a lot of the time, so that's cool. He also has bind reduction, which on a free-to-play unit, pretty handy. I'm not saying it's bad on gacha units, I'm just saying Hibari in particular, PvP focused, didn't really understand the bind there. Makes sense on Damon Spade, makes sense. His luck skills give him some additional ultimate attack damage boosts, which obviously he benefits from quite greatly. He wouldn't benefit from attack boosts because he does HP based damage, so he benefits from that quite nicely. And we also get an additional 1k total damage reduction for him. So, considering that's all unconditional, that's not bad. That is not bad. Very solid unit. He's going to be a very solid frontline. I think a lot of people are going to be using him as their 99 luck. Could say there are better options, and there are some good options. You know, you've got characters like Shigaraki, who are the frontline weak enough for free to play and stuff like that. I'm not saying that he is the best. I am saying he is damn good. He is damn good. His buddy skill converts 5 random bubbles to green and boosts the appearance rate of green bubbles by a large amount. That is not to be understated. That is a very good support, although, again, situational. Depends on the situation because it is only a 1-turn boost, but it is a large boost, so you're going to get a lot of green bubbles on the board if you can get a big burst off after you use this. As far as the unit goes, very good, very good. I'm a little bit disappointed that of all characters, he's the one that's very good, because I'm not a big fan of Damon Spade. He's not my favourite antagonist or anything, but he's good. He is good, so I've got to give him credit where credit is due. Next up, we have Kazuto Enma. Very nice to see him in the game. Very nice to see him in beautiful colour, in HD. And it's a nice sprite. The pose I find to be a little bit awkward, but does do that a lot. He's even doing it in the image here. So, fair enough. Fair enough. Enma is very good. I said it about Spade, I'm going to say it about Enma. Enma is very good. Gives you a 2-turn attack boost for red team members and inflicts damage that ignores damage reduction. Very solid. Very, very solid. Passive skill that reduces cyclone damage by 2/440 in total, which is pretty good for a free-to-play. Pretty good. And an unconditional attack boost. Now, his luck skills do let him down a bit, because they are all contingent on you having 50% or more HP, which hard in some stages, and I suppose any stage where you would be using him as a 99 luck lead, it probably isn't that uncommon. But it is a little bit of a letdown. It's a little bit of a letdown, because if you look at Spade, the percentages are lower. It's 3%, 3%, 3%. Compared to 5%, 5%, 4%. So it is less, but that 50% condition is quite dire. You're doing more damage when you have more HP rather than when you have less HP, when you would want to be doing more damage. And I think Damon Spade probably benefits quite a lot from that 3%, 3%, 3%, because it's HP based damage compared to the attack based damage. So it's tricky. I kind of wish his luck skills were better, but that's fine. We don't really know how much influence the luck skills have yet, because they haven't been around for that long. But I kind of wish his luck skills were better. His buddy skill: convert a random bubble to a skill bubble, absorb the skill bubble for this unit's buddy, and 1-turn damage reduction for red and blue team members by 770. It's like a tweaked version of Harukulani's ability. He's a red unit that gives you a skill bubble and absorbs a skill bubble. It's okay. It's good that we have more units like this that have this utility. I don't think 770 damage reduction for 1 turn is going to set the world on fire, but hey, it's usable. It's usable. And I think as a frontline, he is usable. He could very well be a candidate for your main 99 luck red lead. Cyclone damage reductions are nice. Although, I've been saying before where debuffs are a little bit niche. Cyclone damage is a little bit niche in PvE, but it does happen. It does happen. The one thing you would say is, say for example, who's a character I was talking about before about their... Okay, Yamamoto. Counter-attack damage is not that common, but if a stage does come up where they inflict... where they have counter, I mean, there's no guarantee it's going to be a red stage. So there's no guarantee Yamamoto's actually going to get as much use as you would need. Whereas with Kazuto Enma, if you come up against a stage that inflicts Cyclone, it will be a green stage. So far, there haven't been any other stages that inflict the other types of elementals. They are all tied to the same types. So, nice, if a stage inflicts Cyclone, he'll be there. He will be there for you. Yeah, I think he's okay. I think I probably won't make him my new 99 luck red lead, but people would not be wrong for doing so, because the abilities are there and they are good. I just really wish this was just a little bit better. Just a little bit better. Next up, Chrome Dokoro, incidentally, quite some people won't find this interesting, but I think it's interesting. Pretty much the only thing in this entire event that is not from the Inheritance Ceremony arc. You might remember me saying before this event that we can't pay too much attention to the arc that they're talking about for the feature festival, because when they did it with Naruto, it was just a bunch of random characters from throughout the series. But the only thing from this event that is not from that arc is Chrome's buddy skill quote, which is actually from her fighting against Viper. Way back when you saw Vongola versus Varia. So this was actually, her buddy skill quote is from her first introduction in the series, pretty much. So that's pretty cool, because all the other shit isn't. And as far as her skills, pretty good. I haven't got much use of these frontline buffers, but I do think they can be used quite well, situationally. You look at these abilities, 21% attack boost for 2 turns and 500% damage reduction for 2 turns. Add that to an additional 200 damage reduction. This is all for blue team members from the luck skill, and a 2% ultimate attack damage boost for blue team members. And when your HP is 60% or less, goes up to 80% or less, another attack boost of 6%. As far as frontline utility goes, that adds up to quite a lot of buffing. 80% or less is, again, I'm not a big fan of HP conditions, but it's not that hard to get 80% or less most of the time. I don't really care about counter attack guard. I just don't care. Especially, I mean, like, how often are you going to be, like, I mean, you won't ultimate attack with her. You'll only normal attack with her anyway, so I suppose it's fine. Yeah, the luck skills are awesome. The ultimate attack is going to be good for buffing, good for frontline support. I really think she could see some good use. I really want to try some of these units on some trickier stages, and I might well do that at some point. But we've got a lot of, like, really good free-to-play units nowadays, so at some point, one of the things on my list of planned videos is to try and see if I can beat a bunch of the older content using only free-to-play units, and see to what extent I can use free-to-play units, because you've got to remember there's free-to-play and then there's free-to-play. If a stage is, like, really, really hard and you can only beat it with, like, super powerful units, free-to-play, I don't know. Yeah, very nice kit, and her buddy skill absorbs 4 block bubbles, and for 3 turns boosts the attack of blue team members by 17% up to 21% when you absorb 4 block bubbles. It's good. There are other characters with this ability, and it is a good ability. It's a tad underwhelming. I mean, 4 block bubbles is not that many, and you only gain 4% boost for it. But not without its uses. As far as the units go, like, so far for the free-to-play units, well, I mean, okay, spoilers. Sasagao Ryohei is the worst unit in the batch. there's the spoiler. As for the other free-to-play units, I would say they are basically in order for me. Damon Spade, then Enma Kazuto, and then Chrome Dokoro. And then I should add 50 blocks and then put Sasagao Ryohei, because they have done my boy dirty. Now, he is good for Damon Spade, but that is it. That is it. His one redeeming feature outside of that is his buddy skill, which I think is quite nice, quite usable. 9 heart bubbles to yellow and 5 turns normal attack damage boost for red team members by 60%. Pretty good. If you're trying to use a normal attack damage team, he is going to be a very nice support for that. His ultimate attack, 300% damage, 2-turn counter attack, and that's it. That's it. If there's one thing I dislike more than counter guard and boosted damage to counter, it's actually using counter. It just sucks. It just sucks. Now, there are some characters that have utilized it well in the past, like Deku and Eri in PvP, and to a much lesser extent Kazuki Odin in PvP. But even they have become obsolete, and they did far more counter damage than Sasagawa Ryohei, let me tell you that. His luck skills are all lending themselves to boosting his ultimate attack damage, reducing damage for him, which you could argue makes sense for the character, but at the same time is stupid on a unit with a kit like this. He reduces cyclone damage, which is, again, good for Damon Spade, but he's going to be inconsequential on most stages, because on Damon Spade's stage, he has a buff to make him more useful, and most of the time he will not have that buff. Unconditional attack boost is good, but all in all, I don't think he adds up to a useful unit. He's going to spend a lot of time roaming my box, which is sad. It's sad, because I really like Ryohei. I'm hoping we get like a non-Vongola gear version of him at some point, maybe as a gacha unit. Maybe if we ever revisit Katekyo Hitman Reborn, I assume we will at some point. But going out sad at the moment. Going out sad. All in all, out of this, I think the shining units are probably Damon Spade and Hayato Gokudera. I think Suna and Enma are probably like somewhere in the middle. Yamamoto probably somewhere in the middle with him. Chrome and Hibari somewhere just below there, and then Ryohei just way off in a bin somewhere. So that's my thoughts on the units. We also have the Legend Summon. I personally don't think I'm going to be using it this much, but some people do seem to think that it's going to be quite useful. I don't know. It inflicts 55k damage to one enemy. Important to note that it's not fixed damage. It won't bypass anything, so that's just 55k damage. And inflict 30% weakening to all enemies for 2 turns. It's quite a decent amount of weakening for 2 turns, so okay, fair enough. And for 3 turns, recover 5500 HP at the end of each turn. Now, you've got to remember that there's no instant heal here. It'll only be at the end of the turn. So on the turn that you use it, you've got a amount of damage that's probably going to be quite negligible on most stages. And then 2 turns of 30% weakening. And then healing will come in later. So for me, it's not necessarily that good. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's so good, it's so awesome, but I don't know where I would use it. I can't think of a situation where it would be really good for me. Not to say that there's, 30% weakening for 2 turns is still very good. It's very good. It's just a lot of the time when I'm in trouble, I want my heal straight away. And if I'm trying to do like more damage or serve more damage, I feel like the buffers maybe are slightly better. I don't know. Maybe it'll see some use. Maybe I'm capping. I don't know. But he's there. You're free to make your thoughts of him. And make sure you get him up to max this time around. Don't wait for him to be reprinted because you want to get all the rewards from this event. And that's about it. That's about all I have to say on Katekyo Hitman Reborn. More videos coming soon. I'm going to be streaming at some point. Don't know when. Don't know what I'm going to be streaming, but I'll let you know when I know. And I'll see you guys next time.